link to this message. Need music, because you never put music on for these events, and the stream sounds awkward.
Just get better at speaking so there's no dead air.
Blah, 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 aliens, blah, blah. More factions, blah.
Will you add more bugs to Endless Sky? Of course, we will always seek to add more bugs to Endless Sky.
Yes. Oh, no, that's right. I gotta adjust my mic because my dog's gonna be loud. Maybe that. Hopefully that
I'll give
fixes
people the usual few minutes to filter in.
it. Yeah.
I will say that I had a fist fight with my sleep schedule and won, but at what cost?
We could tell.
It's been a bit wild this past week.
You sound awkward, Warp. Get out of here. You don't even talk. Warp is the true Drac. How do you know not all creatures in the game are already Drac?
I see we have some people on Twitch. Could you tell me how SOG sounds relative to my audio level? I know somebody last time had mentioned that.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it didn't sound the best. And I believe that is because I have a new mic that I got a few weeks ago.
Sounds good on
or
my end.
sometime last month. And somewhat annoyingly, my last mic, the volume slider on it, changed the volume of the output of the headset, but it didn't touch the desktop volume. This headset does not behave like that. The volume slider on the headset changes the desktop volume level. So I guess I had lowered the volume level on the headset, which then lowered the volume level on the desktop, which then lowered the volume level on the stream, which wasn't the best.
Is this the headset that has it to the left a little bit? Or was that the old one?
That was the old one.
Okay, cool.
That, yeah. Man, this is level sound about the same. Alright, that's good. And I have lost the link to
It's in pins.
the responses.
I pinned it in Campfire chat last time. Oh, I'm going to have to talk louder because I changed my mic because of the dog.
Well, that's the submission box. I want the actual results.
Is it this? Oh, I have that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Here. Assuming that link works.
Thank you. All right. I think it's a good time to start now. We've given time to filter in. Araki says kayak. The kayak popped up on the stream. All right. Welcome to our 5th Campfire chat. Hope everyone's doing well today. Not a lot on my mind to mention before we really jump into things. Didn't really prep too much for this. I woke up
Focus.
10 minutes before 2 and hopped on here at exactly 2. So I know that Warp and Sog were already in the room when I got here. I don't know if you guys were planning to talk about anything. I guess
I
one
just brought
thing
up
we
one of the
could mention,
questions.
real quick, the artwork submissions are, I believe, technically closed for the trailer, correct?
Closed, but we're going to open them tomorrow after I kind of work with Hector and you guys about maybe some general ideas of what the trailer should be.
Yeah. A trailer is a much more difficult endeavor than, or involved endeavor than the screenshots or the artwork that we were doing before. So I think it does
Yep.
make sense to give it a bit more time. Something we'll also note, the the idea behind these artwork submission events is to get engagement from people like, hey, can you give us stuff that we can use? And then we'll end up using it. But it's not to say that we will only ever use stuff from this event. If something pops up like slightly past the deadline, but we haven't chosen yet, then
Mm-hmm.
we'll still be able to look at it. And even when we're not doing these events, if somebody comes up with a trailer that, or like a video or something that really blows whatever we have out of the water, then we'll definitely consider adding that to the Steam page or replacing it if we need to. But yeah, this is really just
Yeah.
to get a good like base set of things in to replace the old stuff that was there. And then going forward, we probably won't be like asking explicitly for stuff, but we would still accept stuff if somebody had it.
Yeah.
That isn't to say come to us like every week, like, hey, I have a new screenshot. Hey, I have a new screenshot. I think screenshots can probably stay how they are, but like
Yeah, it's not like we're every year replacing it with community submissions. It's because this stuff has been old for what, like 10 years now?
um,
Not 10, but
not
like
10 years, but yeah,
7.
a lot of I mean, the video is the oldest there. I think at one
Yeah.
point we did replace the screenshots, but even those are several versions out of date.
Mm.
And we kind of noted how, if you look in the screenshots, you can very clearly tell that somebody loaded up an all content plugin because they have like a trillion credits.
Yep.
And it's the same. You can also tell it's the same pilot in a lot of it. Like there's a lot of it's the same Leviathan over and over again as the flagship, and a lot of the screenshots that were up there. I guess you can't see them now because I believe we've already replaced them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that was
They just
something
use
we noticed. It was
self-insert.
like, yeah, we should get rid of that. Araki says
Uh,
also the exemplar shows up for sale. Yeah, there's a very, very old ship that doesn't even exist in the game
yeah.
anymore that shows up from the trailer. Or not it's not even a trailer, it's just a video, like a short gameplay video that's up on the store page.
I mean, hey, that gives me an idea. Real quickly for the trailer, generally though, it's gameplay. I know some people who have been wanting to make trailers in the past have wanted to make like these crazy animations or 3D scenes or these really cool things. Some people have already made like Gefu. They make these really cool settings for the ships and stuff. But generally, it's all gameplay. So try not to go too crazy, but have fun with it.
All right. I think now would be a good time to hop into the submission box. A reminder that we have a link that is pinned in this room that allows you to submit questions beforehand, although we will
Mhm.
still read questions as they're posted in chats, that being Twitch and Discord, and maybe wherever else somebody else might be looking. But yeah, we have, looks like 7 questions now. Somebody slid one in as we were starting. And that's a funny question, but we'll get to that one later. All right, first question. It's December, and when you want to thank within the community for the month. Um, I'll let Sog start. Do you have anyone you're thankful for now that Thanksgiving has passed? The anticipation says type.
I'd like to thank Araki for telling me my Korg speak's not that bad in Gegno content.
I gotta start the event.
uh,
I forgot that's manual.
I just like to be that kind of basic person. Be like general thank the community for being here because we get a lot of love, especially when we update. You look at the Steam forums. If we have an update, it surprises me that people are sitting here like, "Wow, this game still gets updates. These guys are still alive. They're still developing the game." And yeah, we're going. Like we're pretty active. So
I
I'm
might
thankful
appear
for
dead due to my sleep schedule, but I am in fact
the,
not dead.
yeah. So I'm thankful for everyone who's stuck with us so far, and those people who are kind of not necessarily in the main scene of things, but kind of in the back, like praying for the next Endless Sky release. Like, oh, there's more content. Like, you guys are the real OGs.
Yeah, if you actually look at the Steam announcements for whenever we do an update, there's a lot of names that pop up on there that don't pop up anywhere else, at least that I've seen. Like they don't post on the Steam forums, they don't post on
Yeah.
GitHub, don't even post on Discord. But there's a lot of people outside of Discord that do play the game. And another thing, I feel like our Steam. I don't know if it's just like a weird thing with Steam, but I feel like our announcements get a surprising amount of engagement.
Hmm.
At least like so. Let's see. The most recent release doesn't have too many, but like our major releases, like 0.10.3 has 427 thumbs up on the announcement. And let me go to like another game that I would consider like a bigger game. And I feel like a lot of the bigger games in my library have some have a similar number of or a similar amount of engagement on their posts. It's kind of weird to me
Hmm.
to think that like maybe we don't have the highest like player numbers on Steam, but there is a pretty high level of engagement on Steam. So like okay, not all of them. I go to Destiny, and we have like our release announcements have more likes on our announcements than some of the announcements that Destiny has, which is one of like the top like 50 games on Steam all the time. So kind of weird.
But yeah, thank y'all. All right, you have anyone you want to thank, Derpy?
I mean, am I? I don't think I'm allowed to choose favorites. I mean, maybe saying who I'm thankful for is a bit different than choosing favorites, but I mean, it's hard to choose one though. I think
That's kind of what
that
I said, general.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I could shout out a few people, but I feel like the people that come to mind I've shouted out before. So I mean, the Weird Nut is a big one. That guy
Oh
is
yeah.
a beast for on his own developing a mobile Android port of the game and getting people into the game through Android. There were some people. He says woohoo. There were some people who have come over to the Discord server like talking about the mobile port, only ever having played that port of the game,
Yeah.
which kind of mind-boggling to me. Like they somehow never discovered this game on Steam. I mean, I guess I don't know how much game discovery is going on through GitHub. I feel like you have to be like a niche audience, a niche crowd to
Yeah.
even be on GitHub in the first place. And then to be looking on games or looking for games through GitHub, like that's not people's first choice of a video game storefront. Um,
Hmm.
so, but to see that some the people somehow found the game through, I guess FlatHub is where it's hosted. Kind of crazy to me. Aside from that, I've shouted out I think Cornier and Tom Good Idea before as well for working on a lot of UI changes to the game. A lot of the most recent UI improvements and changes have come through them. There's a few other people too who haven't done quite as many of them, but are probably worth a mention. Let me see. There was somebody who opened, I think it was Ember, opened a pull request recently
Oh yeah,
for
for the
something. Yeah, yeah.
finding ancient. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. So if you've ever been to the map in game and you've hit F, or you've even clicked the find button that does exist, you can search through planets and systems. You type in a name, it'll look for the planet or the system that matches that name. But if you go to the shipyard or the outfitter key for the map, then instead of searching for systems and planets, it'll search for outfits and ships that match the name that you inputted. Now, you couldn't do that in the shops, though. You couldn't do that in the outfitter in the shipyard. You could only do that on the map when looking at sales for the outfitter in the shipyard. But, coming in the next update, thanks to Ember, you will be able to do that using the F key. There's also a little magnifying glass button in the bottom right corner of the screen that lets you search for items in the shop. So if you're on a planet with a particularly large number of items for sale, which is especially the case if you're using an all content plugin and you're testing things out, then that will make it much easier to find things.
For those of you who 80% of their game time is making stuff and not playing stuff.
Yeah.
I feel you.
There's another person that comes to mind. Very Good Dog. This was one that another UI pull request recently that came up. You may have noticed that when you're on the map and you're in the missions panel looking at available missions, there's a little widget at the top of the screen that says your currently selected system is X number of jumps away from where you currently are. This is so that you can know, like, oh, I have a job that's worth this much. It tells me it's this many jumps away. That means that the amount of money I'm getting per jump is this much. Or if it's a deadline mission, you can know, oh, I have 7 days for this, but I'm 10 jumps away. Maybe I should just forget about it, unless I somehow perform a miracle. That little bit of UI only ever showed up when you were looking at the missions, but there was really no reason for it to only show up there. I imagine that MZ, when he added it for the reasons I mentioned, where, oh, it's helpful for when you're looking at missions, but I feel like it can be helpful when looking at any of the other panels too. Like, oh, I want to get this ship, and this ship is 15 jumps away from me, so it's going to take me such and such time to get there. So maybe I could stock up on trade commodities just for the heck of it, or maybe find missions along the way.
Yeah, Type says he counts them manually. I do too.
Yeah, but there was plenty of space on the UI to have that little widget on every single map key. So there was really no particular reason why it would only exist on the mission panel. Thanks to Very Good Dog, that now exists on all the panels. Now, we did actually have to nudge it over. If you're looking at the ports panel, and there's that little orbit map at the top right, if you click on a planet in that orbit map, it will show you the description for that planet if you've landed there before. That took up a good amount of space and actually overlapped with where the system distance widget would be. So we had to like knock it over if that panel or if that description appeared, and then it knocks back to the middle if it's gone. But it was pretty easy to actually get in there, which is kind of surprising. Like a lot of these, or a good number of these UI improvements aren't super difficult, I feel. Like I've looked at some of the UI improvements that like Coroneer, Very Good Dog, Ember, Tom Good Idea have done, and they're not super involved. Now some of them are, like I know one of a request that's come up often is the ability to check the history of the messages that appear in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So that will include hails of nearby ships, but that will also include status messages and stuff like, oh, you lost this ship, oh, you failed this mission. But they only last for so long. So people have been like, hey, I want an ability to check my history of these things. Tom Good Idea is currently has a pull request open. I believe I've mentioned it before. That allows you to, I believe, hit the / key, and it will pull up a log of a history of all of the messages you've seen. It goes back, I believe, 10,000 messages, and it does wipe if you reload the game. But honestly, if you've reloaded the game, you probably it doesn't matter much if you lost some ships. You probably know at that point if you're leaving the game.
So, do you mind if I go?
Go ahead.
I want to give a better answer than just thanks everyone. But yes,
Someone's
yes,
come to
thanks
mind.
everyone. Yeah, I do want to give a big shout out to his name is Ziproot on GitHub, and I only found out like a week or two ago that he is Jeva on Discord. He's doing a ton of like copyright kind of work that we really need to get around to doing for like images and whatnot. So he's doing us a huge favor and looking up the sources of every single image in the game. He's kind of writing it down, putting it in the files. He's got some PRs open for it. I just want to give him a big thank you to that because that's something we need to do for a long time. He's doing a whole bunch of work researching all that for us.
Hmm. All right. Looking through the Discord chat to see if there's any like responses to.
Yeah.
Javis says
Mobile
Endless Sky
support.
release announcements have more likes than active players. Yeah.
Like I said, it's because a lot of Endless Sky people are actually making stuff for the game, not playing.
Yeah. There's also a good number of people who aren't even playing on Steam. Like
Mhm.
I'm still on Steam. I still engage with the Steam forums, and I still like all the announcements, of course. But like you
So
guys are all liking the announcements, right? Like you're all
yeah,
doing that. But the version of the game I play isn't even on Steam, so I wouldn't count as an active player.
a lot of our discovery doesn't just come from Steam either. That's probably our most popular route because it's a popular platform. But aside from Steam, like we were talking about with mobile and Android, we have a lot of like kind of I don't want to say third party, but these kind of outside sources. So we have the Android ports because of WeirdNut, and we have GitHub for people who lurk on there. And a good portion actually are probably people looking the game up from those who way back in the day played the Escape Velocity series. So some kind of fans of this sort of kind of top down 2D space game that just had that niche for it. And there's a good chunk of those people too out there that might not even be into the stream or Discord, but they're out there and they're playing, they're watching.
Speaking of storefronts and places you can find the game, do we want to announce that now or next chat?
Mm.
No, this is Warp.
All right,
Okay,
maybe
we
next
won't.
chat.
We won't. Hey, we'll add some anticipation though, an announcement for next time. Potentially, or it might be two months from now. It might be that we only announce it alongside the release.
Release,
Yeah, the
yeah.
next release. But tell us more, says Crony, and Araki says, "Oh, Epic Game Store exclusivity incoming."
Yeah, you guys have to pay now.
Yeah, Warp let it out. He said we're going Epic exclusive. Yeah, sorry guys. They came with some fat stacks, and they were like, "Yo, we know your game makes zero money, but we're not good at business anyway.
You can play the
Here's a
James
million dollars."
mission, and then you need to download the DLC, which costs like 10 bucks.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll save that for next time then.
Yeah. Um. Any more new questions? Not well. There's a few silly ones, but I think we'll probably just go to the questions, and then unless you have
Mm,
something else you want to kind of shout out.
no, I think that's a good number of shout outs there. We don't want to sit here and glaze people for 2 hours straight.
Hey, you, random citizen of the corner. I'm thankful of you. Yes, you. You heard that right.
Yes, Brisky, you in Discord chat.
Yes.
Very thankful for you being here.
Put in the spotlight. All
Glaze
right,
us?
we're
Question mark.
continuing.
Flushed.
That's enough of your spotlight.
Yeah, we're taking that away real quick.
All right.
All right. Next question. I guess this is a bit more something I would be able to answer. Are you currently
Mhm.
looking for more developers? And what should people do if they're interested in becoming a developer? So at this moment, I would say we're not really looking for more people. I think our current roster is already pretty strong. Um, Maybe potentially I could see us adding one more person to help out with some code stuff, but
Mhm.
yeah, Benny says code reviewers. Um, I think it's not so much that we're looking for developers; it's that we're looking for more code reviewers. Now, someone who is a very good code reviewer could potentially become a developer, but um, the main thing is just we need more people looking at some of the code pull requests we have.
Yeah, we're always looking for
Historically,
more
yeah,
reviewers.
yeah. Historically speaking, like if you've ever looked at the open pull requests on GitHub, we have a lot. We currently have 132, which is actually a little lower than our average over the past year or so.
Don't stop.
And it's going to be getting even lower, I hope. But
I hope.
yeah. But a good number of those that are open are actually code pull requests. It's like a good majority of them is code stuff. A lot of the content stuff, like minor missions that people add or tweaks to things here or there, or like content bug fixes, those all get resolved relatively quickly. But yeah, Benny says 2/3 of them are old code pull requests. Yeah, there's a good amount that is code stuff. So if you have knowledge of C++, or maybe not even specifically C++, I imagine if you have some Java experience, it's really not too difficult to learn. I feel like a lot of programming languages are like C based. It's like Java, C Sharp, C itself, C++. If you know one, you kind of know them all to an extent. Um, but even if you're adept in programming, I feel like the language you know almost doesn't even matter. Because like even Python, like oh you don't have like it's more indentation based than brace based like curly braces, but it's still kind of the same thing at the end of the day. If you have any coding knowledge, basically, is what I'm saying, and
Yeah,
you're
generally
interested
at
in
the end,
helping, maybe take a look at some things. Um,
generally at the end of the week, where like 80% of the PRs we're going through are code and not content, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just because of the percentage of what one or the other. So
Java modern, yeah. Um, more modern languages like Java. If you only know more modern languages like Java, you will struggle with the game engine initially. Yeah, I can see that. Um, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that the game engine already takes care of that, like normally in other programs you would have to worry about, but like we kind of have it handled with how we have things set up. So there is a bit of a learning curve to knowing like the engine of the game, but if you kind of what I'm saying though is like if you have the coding knowledge, like if you have programming knowledge, then you'll at least recognize some of what's going on. You'll be able to read it and understand it. But there is, I guess it's a good segue. There's been talk. I mean, something we've mentioned a good number of times actually is having more like documentation and documents and guides to help newcomers and also help maintain the people who are already here to have a better understanding of like what's our foundation, where are we working from, what should you expect from like pull requests or what have you. So something that's been mentioned, I believe sometime last month was the idea, or yeah, sometime last month was the idea of having a content creator's guide, like a guide to content creating and a guide to coding for the game. These being kind of a collection of not really like tips and tricks. Maybe in some sense we would include like, hey, here's some tips when you're working on such and such, but also like general documentation on like, well, here's how the game is structured. These classes do this. These classes do that in a single central location. All of the classes do have a good amount of code comments in them, but that still doesn't let you like glance at one location and be like, okay, here's how I know what this does and what that does. You would have to look through all of the files to figure out what does what by reading all the comments. So we're thinking of having something that's like if you're adding a new feature that does this, or like if you're adding a new feature that reads data from the text files, here's how you should structure that. Because right now, a lot of figuring out how to make new code pull requests is just diving in yourself and looking at what the rest of the game is already doing. The problem is the game engine is actually kind of inconsistent with how things are done because we've updated our what's it or like our standards for how we do things, but we haven't gone back and updated all of the old code to meet those new standards in a sense. So one thing that comes to mind is, like I mentioned, if you're reading code from, or if you're reading data from the text files, some of the loading methods will say like if child dot token 0 equals such and such, else if child dot token 0 equals such and such, over and over and over again. They all do that child dot token 0 call. A lot of the newer ones will just get that value into a variable called key and check against the key every single time instead of continually looking up the value in the list. So that's one thing that, like, I've seen some pull requests actually open relatively recently that will use that old method, and I'll be like, hey, check out this new method that we do. Just grab the key once and then do such and such with it. There's also a lot of if child.size is greater than or equal to 2. Although some of them will also be like if child.size is greater than 1. Like it goes back and forth between greater than or greater than and equal to. But some of the classes will just like again call that once, store that in a has value boolean, and then go from there. That's a very basic example, if you know what I'm talking about. But there's various other places in the code that are exactly like that, where it's like, oh, very old code. Let me base my new pull request off of that, and then it ends up actually kind of being wrong because it doesn't match the new standards from new classes. So yeah. I guess to get back to the original question, then, not really looking for new developers. If you're interested in potentially becoming a developer, I'm not going to make promises. Like, there's no set list where it's like, oh, here's what you must do, and if you reach this, if you meet all these criteria, then boom, we make you a developer. It's really a matter of, are we looking for one at the time? It's not a matter of, do you meet the criteria? But I mean, if you meet the criteria and we're looking, then you have a good chance. Part of that criteria is being a good reviewer. So I would say start with reviewing things. And if you don't know how to do that, then go ahead and ask one of the guys in the Discord server with the little magnifying glasses next to their name and the magenta-looking name colors, because those are our current reviewers who are available on Discord, or the people who we've marked as reviewers. Magenta question mark, what would you call it? It's kind of a weird color.
I was gonna say
Pinkish? Is it magenta not pinkish? Dark pink? Dark pink, we'll go with that. The dark pink color. Yeah, hot pink. It's not really hot pink though. It's too
yeah,
dark.
there's a
If
bit
it
more
was a
red
bit
in it
brighter,
than that.
it would be hot pink. Crimson,
Crimson?
it's a bit too purple for crimson, I feel.
Yeah,
I just thought it was red.
I thought it was red.
No, it's not. Um,
No.
I mean, it's a red shade, but it's also like a purple shade. Like it does have it's a bit of in
Yeah.
between, I feel. Maybe
Well,
I'm
anyway,
just
you see
crazy.
them. They have magnifying glasses, but those are our...
Yeah, yeah. I mean, given that we have enough boosts for the server that we're
Yeah,
having
yeah.
magnifying glasses, those disappear sometimes.
Yeah.
In any case, though, yeah, you can ask them, and then going forward in the future, we hope to have more guides to like how you would actually go about reviewing things and what to expect from a pull request.
Hmm.
All right. Anything else, or is that a good
That's
stopping
pretty
point on
good. It
that
was
question?
mostly the reviewer bit. Like I started as a reviewer. I was getting not to say everyone do this, but I was getting everyone's DMs about learning how to contribute to the game, and I'd be poking at the mods or higher content creators, be like, "Hey, how do
Mm-hmm.
you do this or that?" And they would get annoyed, but don't be afraid to do that. We'd love to help people like learn how to contribute to the game,
Mm-hmm.
or at
Yeah.
least like make content for the game. It is a little bit at the very initial step, it does kind of look a little bit daunting, but because for example, I don't know anything about the code really. I do eventually want to get into it, but I know if I bug like say maybe Hurl or Tybe, they'll teach me a little bit about the code, or maybe I might bug Rising too. So don't be afraid to kind of take a step into the water and see what it's like.
Yeah. don't be afraid to ask questions. It might take some people like a good bit to get back to you on a question, but generally speaking, we're all pretty open to answering questions that anyone has. All right. Moving on to the next questions. What decisions have you made related to
For
the Korth
sure.
Exiles campaign? How have you come to these decisions? The answer? I mean, no decisions have really been made, to be honest. There's been a lot of talk, um,
Mhm.
but no like concrete decisions of here's exactly what's going to happen for such and such. I think that I know roughly where this question has come from, and I know there were some comments recently to the effect of, "Oh, why is development for this faction not happening in places where the people who are part of that development can see it?" I wouldn't say there's really been development going on for the Korth. Um, Again, like I said, it's really just like talk and discussions of how we might do things. It
Mhm.
doesn't really like for me. Development of a thing is we have something that we are actively attempting to get to a pull request phase, or which is already in a pull request, or um, comments that are posted on pull request as a review to suggest that things be changed or rejected or updated or what have you. So that is to say that um, small bits of conversation about a certain section of the game don't really constitute development to me. It's not until like somebody opens a pull request for something, and I am actively on that pull request saying, "Hey, um, this is the direction we are going," then it becomes development to me.
Mhm.
So,
So there is a chorus PR open, but we're still kind of getting around to it eventually because there's still other content like pirates and high reveal that we're working on at the moment. So
mm,
it's not to say we're never going to like get around to it or we're intentionally putting it off to the side, but we'll get to it.
it's more a case of there's bigger and older fish to fry at the moment.
Mhm.
All right. Up next, I just want to say that this game is absolutely amazing. I've clocked over 330 hours on Steam and have recently been trying to make my own plugin. I just wanted to know when the entire Heliarch Lunarium Coalition storylines will be finished. That is a question for Araki. When do you plan to finish the entire storyline? It's probably going to be a good while, he says, shrug.
Shrug. Well,
Um,
there's your answer.
yeah, it's not going to all happen in one update. I'll tell you that. It'll be happening
Mhm.
over the course of several updates. It'll likely be one chapter at a time.
At a time, yeah.
Yeah. So we recently added the introduction chapters or the prologue chapters, whatever we're calling them now. There's likely going to be 3 chapters after that. For each, imagining if it follows the same structure as the Free Worlds campaign, there'll be 3 chapters after the introduction that we already have. Raki says, "I'll be trying and structuring a storyboard plan thing this summer break." So
Yeah.
storyboarding later in 2014 is
Generally,
an
when it
answer.
comes to like faction chapters versus like human factions and whatnot,
2024, yeah.
yeah.
We're going back
Uh,
in time.
in general, you can kind of expect that we're still working on free worlds. We would really like to get to the Syndicate and Republic campaign eventually. As for factions like the Coalition or say the Remnant or even the Wanderers, well, maybe not so much the Wanderers, the Gegno that I'm working on, the Builders, those kinds of content, they come chapter by chapter. It's usually every now and then. It's not really like a core focus at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It is a focus in general, but they usually come and go. Like chapter this update, maybe a chapter and 2 updates. It's never going to be like kind of sit down and here's the rest of the whole entire coalition storyline, or here's the rest of the entire remnant storyline. So
A,
those kinds of factions will every now and then there'll be more content for them.
a correction that
Yes.
Iraqi is in Brazil, so summer break is already approaching for him.
Yeah,
I
it's
said curse hemispheres.
Doom makes a good point here in our comment. You may be able to help by leaving reviews it on GitHub. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think you kind of cut out there. The first part of that was if you want to see content in the game sooner,
Oh,
you may
oh,
want to
okay.
help by leaving reviews on GitHub.
Yeah, yeah. My bad.
Yeah. Although, something I will say that comes to mind when it comes to reviews on GitHub, getting in and reviewing does help.
Mm.
But I feel like a lot of the pull requests that are open, it's not so much like, oh, we need someone to review this code. It's also there's also a section of is this something that we want, or is this something that people are actually interested in? If there's a lot of chatter on a particular pull request, then that makes it a lot more likely that we will be looking at it as something that we want to merge soon. But if somebody opens a pull request and there's a bit of activity at the start, and it's something that we're like, oh, we could see this happening. It's not something that we actively want to, or we actively are saying like this is not going to happen. Like generally speaking, if something just like straight up is never going to happen, there's like not a bad chance in hell that it'll occur. We usually like mention on the pull request like why we don't want it, and then we close those relatively quickly. So a lot of the pull requests that are open are stuff that it's like we're not actively rejecting it, because it's not something that we say or that we think is not a positive or isn't the direction the game is going. It's more so
Mm.
like it's not. It's like neutral. They're neutral pull requests that we could add to the game if there was interest in them and if we had the time to add them, but it's not like so crazy that it's like, oh, we need to get to these right now. So some of the pull requests, even if you're not reviewing the pull request to say like, hey, the code looks good or such and such, you could go to some of the pull requests and be like, hey, this is a mechanic I'm interested in, or hey, I don't like this mechanic, or hey, like maybe you could change to do this instead of that. Reviewing doesn't just need to be I'm looking at the code, I'm telling you if the code looks good. The code is bug free or relatively bug free, and it matches the standards of the game. You could also, having no coding knowledge, having no knowledge of how the game's data is structured, you could still go to pull request and say, hey, I don't like the way that this like UI change looks. We had now this isn't the best example because Cornier does have the coding knowledge, but he went to the pull request from Tom Good Idea that I mentioned that as the message log, and he said, hey, this doesn't look very good right now, like UI wise. It's a very wide panel, it's taking up a lot of space, there's a lot of empty space because of that. So that was not a comment or a review from the position of like coding, that was a comment and review from the position of like this is not the best UI or the best UX. So you could definitely go to pull request and comment on them along those lines of like, hey, I really want reverse engine AI to be improved. We have 2 pull requests open for that I do actually want to get to at some point, but again, it's kind of like it's one of those low priority ones. At least for me. But if there's a lot of people who are hampering, like, oh, we need better reverse engine AI because it sucks, which it does, and I really want to use reverse engines, but I can't because it sucks. Yeah, Doom says testing can also be helpful.
Yes,
Yeah, if
yes.
again, like you don't need to have coding knowledge to test something. You can read through the pull request description, understand what it's trying to do, download the pull request or download the executable from the CI/CD jobs, or if you have the ES launcher, then you can check out the pull request and just test it and see like, hey, does it actually behave as advertised? Are there any issues with how it behaves? You know, Time says we need better NPC behavior in a lot of areas. Yeah, I feel like reverse engine behavior is one of the worst at the moment. I know some people really harp on about death balls. I can live with those. The fact that the reverse engines just suck is one that definitely needs work. So, is there official name for coalition English? Klinglish?
Yoda.
Coalingish?
Crawlingish.
I don't believe so. Use your imagination. Legendary M says, is it possible to have NPCs already in a system before the player arrives? It depends on what you mean by that. Now, you can have NPCs stay in a specific system. Yeah, using the staying personality, as
Yeah.
Benny says. That means that whatever system it spawns in, it will not leave. Unless there's a bug, which there was before. Where they would land on wormholes and it would leave. It would let them leave the system, and then they would be like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go anywhere I want. Or maybe that was because somebody was combining surveillance with staying. I think surveillance makes it so they ignore staying. In
Ships
any
are in a
case,
system when you arrive.
yeah, yeah. Um, Random ships.
That's kind of how the spawn system works. When you jump into systems, sometimes there are ships already there. Sometimes they jump in after a delay.
There's no way to force random ship spawns to be in a system when you arrive, but
Yeah.
yeah, Warp says random ships may already spawn in the system when you arrive. It wasn't, or it won't always happen, but because it's random. Yeah, I believe what it does is when you enter a system, it will simulate 10 seconds of fleet spawns, and if it figured, oh, something spawned in that 10-second window before you showed up, then it'll drop it in the system as you arrive. But otherwise, it just checks like, oh, is there anything about to spawn now? So yeah, if nothing spawns in that 10-second window, then nothing will be there when you show up. But there is a chance to show up in a system and there already be stuff there, if that's what you mean.
Hmm.
Um,
In what systems with less fleet frequency, it might seem like if you're flying around in that specific area that they never jump in or they're never there when you first jump in. That's just because it's a lower chance.
Yo,
But if
Doom
you,
talking about
for
exploits.
example,
Go ahead.
do I know?
Go ahead.
Okay, okay. For example, if you fly through the middle of human space, like through Sol in a couple of systems, it's almost a guaranteed percent chance that in at least one of those systems there will already be ships there when you jump through it. All right, what are you saying?
Doom said, if you're reloading to try to spawn Korth raids, that's useful trivia because it doesn't take 10 seconds to reload and take off, so it's faster than waiting.
Yeah.
I've unironically never thought of it that way, but it's so true. If it takes you less than 10 seconds to leave the system and come back, you're actually increasing the spawn rates of of all the fleets in the system because you're simulating that 10 seconds of spawning over and over again. That's
Well,
funny.
technically, you can do that by taking off and landing and take off and landing instead of waiting.
I mean, you can do that too, but that assumes that there's a planet in the system you can take off and land from.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
not
like
always the
like
case.
if you're talking about like for example, the syndicate system that spawns Chorus Raid is really rare. If you like land and take off a bunch, I think you have a higher chance of seeing them than if you were to just sit there and wait.
Hmm. Developers
That's
are
all I mean.
promoting exploits as many. I'm just saying I won't fix it right now. Seriously, that I don't think that's something that we could like bother. Like, why would we bother fixing that? It's funny trivia, but it's
Yeah.
not like a game-breaking exploit that um, we have to fix now. We're not Nintendo over here. We're not going to fix every little bug for in a single-player game. Sometimes it's just like, oh, feature. It's a feature. I mean, I could spin it as a feature. It takes in game, in universe, it takes you a day to travel between systems. So you leave the system and you come back. That's 2 days of travel. No duh, there's going to be a different set of fleets in the system when you come back. Or you would expect, like, there would be more ships that showed up in those 2 days that you were gone that are still there. So, real time, it's a real time exploit, but in universe, it's not an exploit at all, really.
Mhm. All right. Next question.
Um,
I can get to it.
Go ahead.
Although I probably would want. I'd personally like to hear Warp speak about this, but why is it so difficult to balance the flamethrower? So
Is it?
flamethrower and heat weapon balance in general is brought up quite a lot. I will say, circle back to later if you want me to answer. Okay, I will say, a while ago I was like, oh, heat damage is broken and you can heat stun lock something at a ship. But the more we've talked about it, the more especially Warp has some things I discussions on it, but I don't think it's all that entirely unbalanced. And You can say that in general, like if you start trying to compare it to other heat weapons like the Inferno or Korth weapons, that's not necessarily the same thing. Um, those kinds of weapons really shouldn't be compared as a kind of like step up heat weapon from the flamethrower. They're two very different things.
Mm.
So flamethrower balance, if at all, should be focused on where the flamethrower is used and where what purpose is used for. And especially if you're for example, if you have a Kestrel 12 flamethrowers, that's not a good example. Like, of course you're gonna burn things and make them super hot.
Anything spammed in
Um,
numbers will be
yeah,
very powerful.
yeah.
So I guess it's more of a question of like, what number do you have to reach before it becomes very powerful?
Hmm. That
Or
and it was another good point that was brought up. There doesn't seem to be an agreement on what's unbalanced about the flamethrower. Some arguments are like, I get stun locked by them, or I can stun lock a ship and then it burns forever. So like you can go up to like a Heliarch. I won't say Punisher, but like maybe the middle ships, like the interdictors, and you can stun lock it before its even shields are down. And in the same venue, um, they're really useful against the Korth Automata. And where it is right now, I can't remember. I think we already reverted the heat. I don't remember if it was a nerf, but that's mostly what they're effective for. Is that, and then the Free Worlds campaign stuff. Another thing to consider, and I don't think a lot of people really think about this, even though it's kind of in the broad daylight. If you have a fleet of ships with flamethrowers, yeah, it's gonna sound like something really quickly. But the thing is,
how
I
long?
sound like a broken record when I say this. Yeah, how long? And the game's not necessarily balanced around you having 10 flamethrower furies and you're attacking a single like Korra ship or something. So um it's just kind of like a gray line, like where should it be balanced or if it needs to be balanced at all. Um More often than not, we kind of feel like it's a little bit fine where it is, but why does the Freewood have flamethrower furies against cruisers then? Oh, like I said though, that's a few flamethrower furies against what, like three cruisers, a carrier, and a frigate. That's not 10 flamethrower furies against a single frigate or something like that. Clearly,
Because
we
it's
need to buff our
cool. Okay, it
effectiveness.
looks cool. That's why they use them.
Yeah.
So, Warp said, um, we could just read what he said to us because he did actually respond to this question
Hmm.
before we started and typed up a response. He says, it doesn't seem to me that there is even agreement about in what way the flamethrower is unbalanced. You may say too much heat damage, or too effective at incapacitating ships, or too effective at incapacitating ships that you should not otherwise be able to stand up to. But these examples aren't necessarily completely in line with each other. Some people emphasize the effectiveness when flamethrowers are used in large numbers across many ships. This is quite different to the idea that a flamethrower is unbalanced when used alone. I've even seen a suggestion that the problem with the flamethrower is not in its ability to overheat the target at all. Yeah, there's been suggestions that it's not the heat that's the issue. It's no surprise that balancing something is not a quick and simple process when there isn't even a clear idea of what about the item is currently unbalanced. Sometimes heat damage in general is considered the problem, not the flamethrower itself. Additionally, the attempts to balance it seem to me to be a bit like rolling dice. The approach is to make it less performant in some way. In general, I don't see much done to demonstrate the practical differences or justify what the new version or that the new version is balanced, simply that it is less unbalanced, a step in the right direction. That's not to say that this is necessarily a bad approach, just that a higher effort approach would likely achieve a better solution more quickly if done well. Yeah. Is Sturpy reading a script? I just said I was reading Warp Core's comment. Yeah. Clearly, we need to buff the Arfectas, says Benny. I have talked about doing that. Um, there. So, weapons can use heat as a resource for firing. That is to say, you need such and such amount of heat in order to fire this weapon. we could give the Arfecta a weapon that has a very high firing heat threshold, which basically means if you try to overheat the ship, it will fire a massive weapon and convert all that heat into damage against you. Imagine that.
I will say, with all the Korg rework happening in the future.tm, the Effecta will definitely be on that list of kind of related ships that need to be adjusted.
All right, I guess there's Archon's new buff, the Drac air conditioner.
Ice
Foreshadowing.
beam.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. How do you foresee the direction Endless Sky would go down for the next year? I'm assuming that's next year. Well, we're at the end of the year, so for
Yeah.
the whole next year.
Define direction.
Uh, yeah,
Warp set the same direction we've been going. So.
pretty much. Doing the bigger updates every other update, trying to get some of these bigger contents in. If you're asking like what content are you to expect, like what campaigns or what we'll work on, I imagine, for example, Derpy will probably get some more of the free worlds rework next year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get to some techno content. I don't know when, but soonish. I know, like Araki said, he might work on some more coalition content. There's a couple other. There's actually some other questions in here that kind of tie into this, so I won't say every answer for this, but in an overall general direction wise, just how it's been going, kind of working on things one piece at a time,
Mm-hmm.
getting bugs kinked out, stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say that we have like, oh, here's our game plan for the year. It's mostly like, hey,
Yeah,
what do we want to do for the next update and the next update after that?
yeah. It's
Um,
usually update per update, not
yeah, year over year.
year or month or yeah.
All right, let's move on from there. Do you do you know any good gotcha plugins for Endless Sky? I do not.
What?
But
Okay. What?
but
Hold on. What is the definition of gotcha here? Because you can either be like trying to get unlock a certain thing or something with like a bunch of randomizers, or this is kind of the more the older term for it, gotcha, as in, oh wow, this is a really good plugin, or kind of like grab your attention plugins. If that's what you're
no one
asking,
uses that definition.
hey, some people are coming from the Escape Velocity series. You never know. But I'm assuming this is the meme answer, so there's the meme question. But
Be the change you want to seek.
we do have the ability to roll random numbers now.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have some gambling missions. Hey, do you want a Firebird? Here's your Sparrow.
Yeah. So for years, basically ever since the game came out, you could have a mission or a conversation have something that rolls a random number between 0 and 99, technically 1 and 100. But if you wanted to do anything other than distinct 1 to 100, then you weren't able to. But I added a new condition that makes it so you can roll a random number between 0 and any given value, which is useful for something like this. Although,
Yep.
is it truly a gotcha game if you know the odds?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe those games show you the odds, but do you believe the odds? In game, with this game, you could look in the file and see the odds. It's right there in plain text. Doom says it might be an issue that the balance of the last part of the current Wanderer campaign relies on a fairly small amount of heat damage being able to persistently cause ships to spend a non-trivial amount of time unable to do anything. Yeah, I know there's been talk of the balance of the Wanderer campaign and how difficult some of those fights can be.
Mhm.
The idea
I've
is that you
been
should be able to complete them in a single ship, that is, a single wanderer ship of decent fitting, so you're not like trying to make a really crappy build. But there has been talks that like maybe they're a bit too brutal for that sense of balancing. It seems to break every
also
time someone touches heat damage. That's rough.
something I still want to do on the stream is do a whole playthrough of the game. I did recently do a free worlds playthrough the other week or so. I feel like once I do another whole playthrough, maybe I can go through and kind of play these missions out and see. Oh, maybe we can take a frigate out of this or a kib out of this. I think there is room to balance those missions fleet wise, so you can always go back to that. But for flamethrowers, Warp, do you have anything to add to what Doom just said?
No.
No. Oh, he's typing. Let's go. I think I discussed this in the issue I made about the problems I had with changed overheating.
Yeah, Web opened a pull request on the overheating changes, or not a pull request,
Mm-hmm.
an issue rather.
Yeah, before we reverted it, because it did the recent overheat revert before we reverted it. It did mess quite a bit with wanderer balance. It made it harder, and it was kind of like a blanket change rather than kind of more. Is it the flamethrower? Is it the infernos? Is it whatever else? Because it's not like I was saying earlier. You can't compare the flamethrower to the inferno or vice versa. There's no like tier of flame weapons to go up in order to do heat damage. The same way there's no tier of ion weapons to go up. You could say that there's a nullifier versus the ion cannon, but they do two different things. One does like instant hit damage and kind of lowers the energy. The other one's over time. So we don't talk about the Skylands. That's a placeholder.
Doom says he's broken continuous twice now. Everyone's got to do it once, at least. All right, let's move on now. Next question: are you stinky? No. Next question: are there ever going to be, or are there ever going to exist date-based events? For example, Halloween and Christmas. There already are, but they're like in-universe holidays. So
Yeah.
every year around Remembrance Day in the game, new jobs will show up for Remembrance Day. Same thing with Earth Day. Around Earth Day, there are jobs that show up that are for Earth Day.
The hand
Um,
sizer, yeah.
and we have, yeah, Hans Sizer month
Um,
is something that happens in the Rem and the South. So we already have stuff. It's just like in universe made up holidays.
yeah. If this question's asking in relation to real life dates, probably not. I'm thinking maybe that might be it because we're around Thanksgiving and Christmas time, but
April 1st, yep.
everything's within the game's calendar, not real life. If that's the question.
Um,
I was looking at this next one. Uh, the question is, Shirney race, is it still actively being developed? What about the conglomerate aliens? What about the Trin?
who?
This kind of, I think this sounds like a plugin or maybe a different game
Huh?
because I don't know what any of those are.
You don't? Do you legitimately not?
No.
Wow. Okay. The first one I have no idea what the Shirney are. The conglomerate, that's an idea I had forever ago that I never even started. I wrote down some ideas. It's like, hey, what about
Oh, I
this?
remember
It
now.
was like the anti-coalition that I described it as.
Yeah, that
Um,
was the ones that were going to be above Gecko Space,
yeah.
right?
Um, a good bit up there, yeah. And then the Trin are a really old one. That is from Endros, or was it Elysian? One of those two. and then some help
Okay.
from Comnom.
Okay, so these
There
are old,
is
old.
there is some. The trend remained in my memory, so there is actually some, and the memory of a few other people too. I won't say what's coming down the pipeline, but there is actually something that someone approached me with relating to the trend. So
Well, now I'm curious because I don't know.
there may be a potential Petir 2 that includes some stuff. 2 or 3. Doom says,
Oh,
Shoni, or an old plugin I did, it is not being developed. Please abandon it. Okay. We
all
have
right.
stricken it from the record.
Sure, anyhow. Okay, I'm glad those were actual things and not just
Yeah.
something I didn't know.
All right. We have the dromedary. We have the Bactrian. When are 3-humped camels getting their own ship? A 3-humped camel equals a pregnant camel. Um, how
Huh.
would we? What would the ship be called? The pregnant? If you don't know, a dromedary is a 1-hump camel, and a Bactrian is a 2-hump camel. I believe that's the correct order of things. Um, so yeah.
No idea.
No, we're not.
Just pretend the three hump camel is the older city ships that don't exist anymore. There you
The Bactrian, says Araki, yes.
go. The bacteria.
All right. Petition for Sog to resume his work on the Korith. I guess I'll let you continue that one.
Etofix and other models absolutely 100% rock. So are some ideas I'm not sure that can be made public yet. Uh, First off, I know who asked this. Second off, thank you.
You're only as anonymous as you
Uh,
make your question.
um, as like we said earlier, we'll get to the chorus when we get to the chorus. Because I know this question is a bit more ship based, I will say the Atofek is still in the cards. I'd like to play with that and get that into the game. Um, I don't really have any other models like besides that on the table, besides ones that are already in the game. But one ship that does come into mind, which is the Naranrat, which is that funky looking one that has a whole bunch of angle gun ports on it. That one's more so waiting for Zichus to continue the Remnant campaign because I know he wanted that to be kind of a increasing chorus threat exile ship for them to make later to invade them with. So you kind of have to ask him on that one. As for the Atofek, yeah, that's probably going to wait a little later. I know technically that could be PR'd separately than all the chorus stuff happening, so maybe, but not sure. It's not on the forefront of my list right now, but yeah.
A new comment from Warp regarding the heat damage discussion. To summarize, I don't think the Wanderer missions are actually particularly unbalanced in game. Some are perhaps leaning towards being too difficult, and could do with some adjustment. I certainly don't think heat damage is really a problem in the Wanderer missions. Maybe the flamethrower is, but not heat damage itself. Not that I think I've seen much argument or demonstration that the flamethrower is actually a problem here. So, here's
Mm.
Warp's comments on the matter. But we should continue on to another topic here.
Yeah.
Next question
What?
then. Go ahead,
But
if you were going to read it.
okay, okay. So what is the current status of the Pirate Free World campaign? Oh yes, the Free Worlds faction that is a Pirate Free Worlds.
It says
I'm
Pirate Free
assuming
World campaign imply the existence of a Pirate Syndicate and Pirate Republic campaign.
yeah.
Because if that's the case, we're not getting that. It's going to be one pirate campaign. It's not going to be like pirate campaign, but
The
with the
Pirate
free
Pirate
worlds.
campaign.
Yeah, pirate
The
merchant?
Pirates
Question mark.
Pirate campaign is just the merchant campaign.
Gorilla,
Two
gorilla, gorilla.
negatives. I'd like to get to it eventually here, but um
We are actually making some moves on that, on the pirate
yes.
stuff.
Yes, I actually should I say it?
I mean, if you want.
Derpy brought up the idea. I posted this in the pirate not gameplay project channel. That is pirate gameplay. Never mind. Same thing. Instead of having all those new variants of pirate variants, some of them I'd like to keep. There were some other ones we talked about having, but instead of just having a whole bunch of specialized pirate variants, Derpy brought up the idea of having some older human ships that still are kind of used by the pirates because maybe they're easier to obtain, maybe they're kind of obsolete, no one wants them anymore.
Hmm.
So this is kind of a little bit of an exception of no more human ships. It has somewhat of a background for them to exist. So to kind of expand upon older human lore, especially like maybe in the ship descriptions. Something he said that I thought was cool was maybe the syndicate bought off some other shipyards, and maybe there's a ship in syndicate pirate space that was once part of a shipyard, but it's now just kind of jank on the side.
Hmm.
So I've been working on a few models for these ships. Uh,
Yeah,
I once,
the idea was we have the story says there are 800 years of history in which humanity has faster than light travel, and you have to expect that in that time, the shipyards that we see now are not the shipyards that have existed that entire time. Some of the
Mhm.
shipyards are very old, like Beetlejuice shipyards. It's said that they were around, or at least something that like related to Beetlejuice shipyards was around at the time of the Alpha Wars, which was hundreds of years before the start of the game. But there's
Mhm.
undoubtedly shipyards that popped up and disappeared. Maybe they were around for 100 or so years, but that 100 or so years is outside of the span of time that the game currently exists in.
Mhm.
So there is a good opportunity to introduce, or even the shipyards we have now. Like the ships they're selling weren't always the ships they were selling throughout history. There's probably
Yeah,
models they don't sell anymore. So this is
I
a good
actually,
opportunity for, especially in like pirate territories, to introduce ships that either aren't sold or maybe only sold in pirate plans because they still like have them in
mhm.
circulation. But but stuff that's like models of ships from humans' historical past. Like there's cars you see on the road that aren't made anymore, but like it's an old car that
Yeah.
someone still has. So kind of that idea.
So what was I gonna say? I have at least 5 ship ideas so far in my mind. Halisham here in chat says the Firebird, the Beetlejuice design saw the Elf Wars. I was actually like kind of looking into ship descriptions to kind of get an idea of what ships are newer and what ships were older. The Berserker is actually a really old ship. Let me see if I can find the description here. But it's one of those ships that's already kind of falling off the market in the description, I believe. Let's see. Human ships. I could have just opened the game, but this is easier. Okay. Yeah, the Berserker ship description is once one of the most popular ship classes. The Berserker's popularity is now waning in favor of more modern and versatile ships like the Hawk. Although limited numbers are still produced by Beetlejuice shipyards, most Berserkers are in service today are more than half a century old. So yeah, there are a couple of ships like in the game's today's shipyards. That's a funny way to say it. That are kind of aging already. So I kind of peeked into that and kind of messed around with a few designs. I might stream after this campfire chat and show you guys the designs if you're interested in that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. But no, I'd like to get to the pirates sooner than later. Preferably this patch. Do you think that's still on the cards? Or
Mm, I mean, we have 2 more months
yeah.
before this releases out, so there could probably be some movement on it. Um,
Mm,
I would like to get the introduction that is currently open wrapped up in some way, shape, or
yeah.
form. So that
Okay.
maybe that being this update, but yeah.
There's that. Fleet intelligence is typing. Where are the pirates?
Watch out. What you're gonna do when he comes for you.
I am the pirates. Next question.
I'm not reading the whole
What?
thing. Just
Every faction in the game war when? No. Uh,
yeah, it's
next
literally like a
question.
hyphenated like Wanderer High, Unfettered High, Korth Exiles, like every single faction in the game, even
Yeah.
some that don't exist yet. Um,
I think there's a plugin that does that. I'm not sure, but
a
there
war
might
between
be.
all factions when war of all against all, not happening.
You know what's funny though? The Korg's not in here because I know the Korg would just win. Addition to name Sagittarius A star to be named to how the way mine is spelled Sagittarius A star. This is a running meme.
No.
No, but my Discord name kind of reflects that. So there's your meme.
Yo. Is it possible to control F an outfit in the outfitter / shipyard?
Hey,
Or ship in the shipyard? It
we
will
have
be
news
next
for
update.
you.
We just talked about that earlier
Yep.
this chat. You know what grinds my gears? The next question. When some outfit in a ship's or in a ship sold on a planet isn't sold separately on the same planet. For instance, dreadnoughts are sold on Zug. Dreadnoughts have plasma turrets. Plasma turrets are not sold on Zug. There are a lot of cases I found where I run into that, and it's mildly infuriating every time needing to buy the ship, uninstall the outfit, then install it where I want it, and install the ship again. Is that intentional because of something or just an oversight? Anyone have plans to address that? There was actually a very old issue about this. Maybe even two. Let me see if I can find them. And I believe that the conclusion at the time was something to the effect of, well, if you go to like a hardware store, or like a computer store or something, they'll have pre-built machines, right? They'll have pre-built computers. Not every component in the pre-built computers is also for sale separately at the same store. So it's kind of the same thing where, in a sense, the ships in the shipyard are like pre-built ships for you or pre-built loadouts. But maybe the reason they have certain outfits is because the shipyard orders those outfits for those ships. And I think speaking in terms of shipyards versus outfitters is important. Technically speaking, the shipyards and the outfitters are separate companies. There's not really a combination shipyard outfitter company in the game. It's usually, hey, this company develops the outfits. This company develops the ships. You go to that company's shipyard to buy their ships. You go to that company's outfitter to buy their outfits. Now, I imagine there's like a store section of the shipyard, or of the spaceport, rather, where all the shipyards gather together and all the outfitters gather together. They're probably very close to one another. But just because a ship is selling an outfit doesn't mean an outfitter in the same spaceport will have that outfit for sale. So yes, issue number 4011, which is a duplicate of issue 1213. I'll just copy and paste these into chat for you to glance at. But yeah, that is the reason why. Now, sure, you can buy the ship, sell the outfit, and then sell the ship. But wouldn't it just be easier to go to the outfitter with that actual outfit for sale? Halisham says, if I recall correctly, outfitters don't have a list of specific things they sell. They have some number of listings, such as basic outfits or wanderers. It would be a bit of a nightmare to adjust everything. Yeah, potentially. But the reason they're grouped as like a set of listings is because that listing is its own company that is selling those things. In a sense. Not entirely. Like basic weapons, those aren't necessarily tied to a specific outfitter. Or really, that's probably like a distribution company in a sense. Like some of the most expensive outfits are sold directly through the outfitter company on their home planet or on their capital planet or whatever, wherever they're based out of, and maybe a few other major locations. And then they have minor locations spread out further from that in other systems. Then there are locations that are like not the main company that sells the outfits, but they probably bought the outfits from the outfitters and then are reselling them somewhere else. That's where I imagine the basic outwit or the basic weapons and basic outfits come from, or common outfits, I think is one. Fleet Intelligence says, I am here only to say I love this game exists. Grew up with the OG Escape Velocity, beta tested the Windows version of Escape Velocity Nova in high school. Man. And my number one wish is for someone to take the EV, EVO, and EVN and all the huge EV plugins, EV Game Expander, ORS,
Or else.
Battle Velocity, Clavius, can't remember them all, and bring the asses into Endless Sky. I know it will never happen, but a man can dream. Ducks out.
So I responded this in the comments, but I'll speak it out loud for
Yeah.
people listening. Um, there are a few people who are making plugins for Endless Sky that have EV ships from any of the other three games. Um, you can't really just like we can't just be like, no, you can't do that. Some of them might be interesting. I personally am working on plug and pulling escape velocity override assets, but I'm kind of doing a twist on the scenario and doing a whole new setting. Generally, though, if we're talking about pulling assets like one to one, or just kind of just shoving them into Endless Sky, we're kind of avoiding that because in the past I've talked to some of the devs. So I've talked to the dev of Override and I've talked to the dev of Nova. They generally want to avoid kind of just copy pasting escape velocity content into Endless Sky because they want anyone who's doing so to be a bit more creative with it, create your own things, make new scenarios. So uh, as for like one to one comparisons, probably not. But there is a fan base for escape velocity content that are trying to work some things into our plugins. So
Mm-hmm.
and Warp just made a good content comment. If you're Cosmic Frontier Override is another escape velocity like game. It's actually a remake, like Morph says, a modern remake of EVO. They have they're doing pretty good work. So if you check our sibling servers, you can see and you can actually talk to all the old Escape Velocity devs and people, most of them.
Yeah, there's a
So
lot there, or so I'm
yeah, go
told.
check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, having EV plugins in Endless Sky, that's something that's somebody would have to go out and do on their own. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like
And if you're
we, as the developers of Endless Sky, are looking to do that.
yeah, I might do like my own little scenario for it, like I said, but it's not like oh we really want to have Escape Velocity in this guy. So
Something I
um,
will mention though is that an idea that we've that's kind of been floated around is an idea of like mechanic parity with uh, with some of what Escape Velocity had. Now, not every mechanic is eventually going to be in Endless Sky, probably, but some of them are stuff that we want to port over as so that you could make a more faithful Escape Velocity, um, like port or a total conversion for
mhm.
Endless Sky. One of the big ones that always comes to mind is the inertialess flight that some of the ships had in
Yeah,
like EVN. I know. Um,
yeah, the Velos.
you can kind of do that right now with extremely high acceleration, but
Yeah,
I don't think that's the best approach to
it's kind of janky.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I got it working with like very high acceleration and very high drag. Um, so you you instantly kill your velocity in whatever direction you're not currently facing. It looked
That
kind
sounds
of funky,
smooth.
but it
Yeah.
wasn't exactly the same as the way that it worked in EVN, because the way it worked in EVN, like you would throttle forward, and then anytime you would turn, you would immediately start going in the direction that is now forward that you're facing. That's not how it works in um, with extremely high acceleration and high drag in Endless Sky. You have to be holding W the entire time to be moving the direction you're facing.
Mhm.
So it's not like throttle up, throttle down, left and right. It's more, oh, I have inertia going in this direction. I need to actively change the direction I'm going by holding W again.
It would be good for like some of the aliens. That's
Mm-hmm.
generally what it was used for was the alien ships. I mean, like space aliens, not just alien species. But
Siriday asks, are there any plans to eventually, probably after 1.0, a part of getting to 1.0, have campaigns changed based on the order you complete them in? Like how the crew on Hephaestus comments on you already, or if you already have a jump drive during the part of the, that part of the Free Worlds campaign. Um,
mm,
it depends. because
More
there
work.
there is kind of already a set order in which you're expected to do things. You're expected to do, yeah. And Benny says there's also going to be some mutual exclusion between campaigns. So all of the main human campaigns will be mutually exclusive. So you won't be able to do the Free Worlds campaign and the Navy campaign and the Syndicate campaign and the same pilot. You'll have to make a new pilot for each of those. So anywhere where it's mutually exclusive, we don't need to worry about that. As far as being able to do separate campaigns in different orders, like what the expectation is not that other campaigns would be changing things so massively that the Free Worlds campaign would have to react to that. And there's also the fact that the game kind of expects you to finish the main plot before doing anything else. So you can't get to the end of where the Wander campaign currently is without doing the Free Worlds campaign. You can get through some of the introduction, but you'll be stopped halfway through the first chapter of the Wander campaign if you haven't finished the Free Worlds campaign, or if you haven't finished a main plot in the human space. The Coalition campaigns will be the same. You can do the introductions to the Coalition campaigns, but if you have not finished the Free Worlds campaign, you cannot continue any further. The Remnant campaign, or the Remnant storyline so far, I don't believe has any similar blockage to it, where, oh, you need to finish the Free Worlds campaign before you can continue down the Remnant storyline. But the Remnant storyline is also very self-contained. It does not do anything that would make sense for the Free Worlds campaign to react to. And that's going to be the expectation going forward for all Alien storylines, most likely. Either it will require that you finish the Free Worlds campaign first anyway, or it will be doing its own thing that would not change anything that the main campaigns in human space would even be able to react to. There are a lot of small things, though, that we will likely add that it's like, oh, like you mentioned, the game notices that you already have a jump drive. Hey, you already have that. Like, it kind of a wink and a nod type of thing. There will likely be stuff like that in the future more often. So I kind of said if you want to think of every single possible scenario, it is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like absolutely everything will be covered. But if somebody thinks of something like, hey, this would be a cool instance of having the game react to you having already done this, then we could probably add something for that. Like, for example, also in the Free Worlds campaign, if you do have a jump drive and you're transporting Senator Hugin, the game actually reacts to that. She asks you to get from point A to point B in a time that is quicker than you would be able to actually do if you only had a hyperdrive. But if you have a jump drive, your character is like, little does she know, I have a jump drive. And if you actually get there quicker than she says, within the time she said she wanted you to get there, it also reacts, and she's like, oh, hey, you're actually competent. Does he know? What do you mean by this? Responding to who? But yeah, so small things like that. It won't always be about the jump drive. That's like kind of low-hanging fruit for the human campaigns to react to the fact that you have a jump drive far before you actually should, at least in terms of what the game is expecting. But yeah, so stuff like that. We'll definitely add more, but not a big focus or anything.
Mm-hmm. All right. We just got a new question. Hey, sorry if this is a dumb question. It is. How dare you ask it?
No.
But will there be alternative starts for the game, like starting off the Syndicate, or as a pirate, or as an alien for the Remnant even? Anyways, I love this game. Thank you all for making.
Yes.
You're welcome. And yes, we would like to kind of explore alternate starts, though generally they'll probably be limited to humans because I can maybe see the Remnant thing working, though it might have a lot of caveats to it. But it's kind of hard to be like, you were a human who grew up on this Remnant world with all the Remnant humans, but you're not a Remnant human, or you're a human who grew up in Coalition space working on a textile factory. So
The main reason why we would probably leave it to humans for the moment is that none of the storylines in the game really make sense if you're not a human.
yeah, all it's written is a viewer. So
Yeah. Now, we probably could have like a. So actually, that might not be too big of an issue, because we can actually
Substitutes.
gate starts behind you having completed certain things.
True.
Moose, this is shaking my head. Poor Twitch chat, cold and abandoned in the rain. Yeah, sorry, I haven't been looking at Twitch chats. I'll look at it after I finish mentioning this.
I
So
saw it.
we can actually lock the starts if we add new ones, so that you need to first do something in like a human start before unlocking like a high start. Hurl is typing actively in chat. I know that Hurl has a high start open pool quest where you have to have completed a certain point in the storyline on your first pilot. You then unlock a high start where I think you're still a human, but you start in high space, and it is set after the events of the war in human space. That way, we don't actually have to worry about making a high start compatible free world campaign, even if that start started you as a high, which maybe it possibly could. Even if that was the case, the free world campaign would not need to react to that because of the fact that, well, now the free world campaign is done. Like that's in the past of that start. So going forward, if we have starts where you start as an alien, that's probably what would happen. Is anything that would be way too much of a headache to handle.
Yeah.
Honestly, that probably just the human campaigns would have this happen. Because I can imagine like the Wanderer campaign could still happen with you as a high, and I don't think it would change too much.
At that point, the only thing you'd really have to be worried about changing is if the campaigns reference.
Free world stuff.
Oh, in
Or
human
main plot
space,
stuff.
is
Yeah.
this how humans do it, or
Yeah.
was this like this in their turf wars? Like, how was your alpha wars, or
Yeah,
was
we
it
would need to
doing?
make sure the Wanderers don't refer to you as a human.
Yeah.
And also make sure that any plot points that are mentioned in the Wander campaign that come from the Free Worlds campaign are somehow explained to you as a high start player.
Mm.
So, like,
Yeah.
if you started as a high after the main plot was over, but then went on to do the Wander campaign, you would not know Danforth. But Danforth
Yeah.
shows up in the Wander campaign. So we would need to figure out how to handle that. But
Could
that's
definitely
actually
be
not
later down the
too. That's
road.
probably not too big of an issue to handle, as compared to you are a high or you are a coalition member and you're trying to do the Free Worlds campaign. Like that would not fly.
Yeah. Is it fair to just throw ideas out here? Yeah, go ahead. Um. Okay.
Two more
Because
questions.
these are pretty related. So, pug campaign setting with the pug against humans when?
Probably never.
Yeah, no. The pug, and kind of similar with like the Drac and the Quarg, are these kind of like
Pug start.
outside the realm of the player experience. So we want to keep that from like a direct like just side with them because they're intentionally ambiguous. Tier 2 pug win, Aspecco. I think it'd be cool to have the even though it's like a small area, but the pug ships in Wanderer space be the tier 2 equivalent because they're wanderers.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be cool to have different models for them and maybe different weapons. But that's Becca. Becca's he's the one who does all the pug ships. He does a really good job at them. So I brought it up to him before, and he kind of said it's whatever. So
It's one of those things that's not a high priority.
yeah,
Uh,
can happen.
yeah.
Can't say when.
Yeah.
There's actually a question I'd like you to answer, Drippy, that was brought up earlier. Legendary asked it because this is brought up a lot in content creation. Is there a reason why the Deep and Norwest Coalition space have to be isolated from one another?
The deep in what?
Northern Coalition space.
From one another, or from the
Yeah.
rest of the galaxy?
As in, like, there's nothing connecting them or near them.
Anything coalition related, you would have to speak with Iraqi about. I believe that, if I recall correctly, from the planets that are up there, or from maybe it's just one planet description, the idea is that it is a dead end. The idea is that there is nowhere to push further back from there. So you can't have more systems behind that can be linked to it, or that you can jump to it from, because the coalition have jump drives. So the idea of that system being a dead end would not make sense if you could jump to other systems from it. Yeah, Raggy says correct. It's meant to be an isolated point. In the same sense, the coalition is meant to be an isolated region of space from the rest of mainly human space, but the idea of isolation kind of extends to. You mean deep? Did I not say the deep? Anyway, the idea of the deep being isolated. You said coalition, whatever. The deep being isolated extends to more than just being isolated from the rest of human space. They were isolated from the rest of the galaxy itself, in a sense, except through those few hyperspace links that they have, because of some of the history behind how the deep got there in the first place. Warp says the reasoning for the deep is thematic. The deep is supposed to be a sort of fortress. So if you know the history behind where the deep came from, Benny kind of spoiling it in chat if you want to read that. There's reasons why they're also isolated. And Warp says the idea is there shouldn't be any other way in or out. There should just be like this one choke point of we can only ever expect something to come through here, and there's nowhere to go from here. There, are you happy? Spoilered it. And then
What is this? Oh.
Warp also links a comment from MZ from back in 2016. The Deep is supposed to be a fortress of sorts, where they could easily choose to wall themselves off from the rest of the galaxy. If there were a plot reason for adding a back entrance into that fortress, it might be worth it, but I'm not sure I'd want to do that just for a travel convenience reason.
Yeah.
So the issue that was opened was maybe push one of the top systems in the Deep closer to one of the systems in the far north, so that you can jump between them and cross the gap. But that was kind of rejected. So,
Yeah.
And I have maintained that rejection.
I did kind of have the thought it doesn't connect them, but I kind of was. I'll just say it now. I was planning like a really small, like tier half alien race to between Coalition and like the pirate free worlds area. But I'm not sure I'm going to do that anymore because I kind of feel like that area should stay kind of open. But we'll see. Maybe with like pirates, maybe we add a system or two there. But
All right.
that's for deep, yeah.
Bane asked, so I do maintenance for a living. Good people equals good performance, mechanically speaking. I was thinking using the outfit system, there could be a tiny one or two to represent the quarters and living space of a good gunner or engineer or navigator that gives bonuses, or gets the most out of their weapons or other outfits. They could be made available through missions, etc., and spaceport stuff. This idea of it's kind of an idea of crew upgrades has been brought up a number of times, but it's probably not something we're going to add to the game because we already have the outfitting system is already pretty expansive as it stands, and it only gets more expansive as we add more factions to the game and more mechanics and more unique combinations of attributes on outfits. The whole idea of then focusing on your crew to be able to give them bonuses, not really something that's in the cards. One of the big ones that comes up is train your crew to have better hand-to-hand combat capabilities. But hand-to-hand combat isn't really the focus of the game. It's something you can do, but it's kind of a separate ecosystem from the rest of what the game has to offer in terms of ship-to-ship combat. Katie says shares the same problem with crew that EV or the EVE Online has. They're utterly expendable and interchangeable numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea isn't to the way the game isn't set up, or the way the game is set up is not to have these crew members that you know and upgrade over the span of your gameplay. Your crew are faceless pawns for your enjoyment.
We got a repeat question just now. Any future Chorus content by Sagi or Becca? The Atrophic and Chorus creators are really cool.
We already answered those. Watch
Yeah.
the replay.
Watch the bud.
All right, let me check. Let me check Twitch here. Okay, now I'm just gonna. Of course, he's like, "Oh, we're being ignored,"
Yeah.
and I check what the question is.
Yeah, that's why I said no. We're not saying that.
Musa asks, "Okay, I
Oh
missed
no.
most of the stream. How many GitHub stars until you add sex to Endless Sky?"
No. Stop asking.
Vecta says, "To be fair, I'd probably have ignored that myself as a dev." Well, we gave you the light of day for a little bit there, but we're going to move on very quickly.
Yes. Anyway.
Did Iraqi just say add a ship called Sex and then delete his comment?
I don't know. No.
1984. If the lamb community did it, we can do it too.
The word sex is now a ban offense.
Cult of Lamb.
That's not what we were talking about. Okay.
It's over.
So that wraps up the questions from the submission sheet, unless someone sneaks another one in there. So at this
No, we're
point,
not
if you have a
looking at it anymore.
question, yeah, our Musa ruined it. Go talk to him if you don't like that.
Stream's
But
over. We're done.
if you have any last minute, all right. Yep. See ya. Oh, I thought you left.
No. All right. Well, just me.
Okay, now someone's just disconnecting me, but I can guess who it is, and they're probably going to lose their perms here in a second.
Yo. Gotta check that audit log. Same person, same culprit. You know who it is. Ah.
There are ones that we haven't answered
So
yet.
ogre.
Go ahead and put them in the chat. Anarchist, we're gonna have a talk to with you after stream.
Disciplinary action in order. No. Just say no. They can't do anything. Server muted.
You can't server mute me.
So what's funny is, since I'm streaming this to Twitch, Twitch can still hear everything I say,
Yeah.
but they can't hear Sog
No.
when you get muted and when you get booted.
Anyway,
This is a coup.
hold on. Any questions? What is the foundation of pi? Yeah, there you go.
It's a superposition of all digits. Don't know if this question's been asked yet. How do plugins become part of the game? Do you guys just decide? Asks Dayhan. Well, first, the person who makes the plugin has to open the plugin as a pull request. Benny says it depends. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you're creating content, there's kind of two paths, maybe three. You can go with it. First being like, oh, I just keep it to myself. Second being you open a pull request to the game saying, hey, I am requesting that this content be added to the game. The third being you just go straight the plugin route and be like, hey, I don't even care about getting this in the game. I just want to do this for me and whoever plays it. There's not really a matter of deciding on our part which plugins do and do not get added to the game. It's more so, does the person who made the plugin want to add it to the game? If they do, they make it a pull request, and then we look at the pull request as if we would look at any other. We don't really look at it in terms of like, oh, this was a plugin before, and now we're going to review it as a plugin. No, anything that's pull requested to the game, we review as if it, like, is this fit for vanilla? We don't care really where it came from, what the history of the content is, or whatever it is that is being added.
So, that's to say some plugin creators might not want to make it part of the game. So there might be some plugins out there that are really cool, or really cool or good, cool and good. There might be some fantastic plugins out there, but the plugin creators might not necessarily want to try and conform to vanilla Endless Sky to sacrifice some of their content.
Mhm.
So we don't actively go out and say, "Oh, this plugin's really good. Let's change some of it so it fits into Endless Sky." It's more so the plugin creators themselves and whether or not they decide to move on that front.
Yeah, if you find a plugin and you're like, this is great, this should be vanilla, don't come to us about that. Go to the plugin
Yeah,
creator and see if
yeah,
they are interested. And honestly, don't even try and pressure them. Um,
yeah.
Warp says they can't stop us if they release the plugin under GPL 3. I mean, so Warp is saying that technically speaking, even if you don't want us to add your plugin to vanilla, we could do it on our own, but we're not going to do that.
No,
Um, yeah. So
respectful.
you don't pressure people into making things into plugins because I think that having plugins that are just plugins and aren't trying to become vanilla is actually good for the health of the game because a very major part of why MZ made the game the way he did and something we've kind of tried to continue is making it so that the game is very easy to customize things so that you can make these plugins. We don't then want to be like, oh, anything that's good and a plugin should become vanilla. No, there should be good plugins that are just plugins.
Hmm. I say this usually almost every other dev chat, but MZ did say he wants plugins to kind of expand upon ES, not necessarily the other way around. So both can happen, but that was a big feature of the EV series was plugins really added another um, kind of aspect to the game, and it's because they were plugins, not necessarily they were trying to get into vanilla.
Yeah. I
So,
think Minecraft is a good example. There's a load of mods for Minecraft. Not all of them are for vanilla. Some
yeah,
of
they're
them,
not going to add all of
some
them.
of them should be vanilla, like Distant Horizons. But point aside, but a lot of those, the appeal of the mod is that it is something different from vanilla. That like there's a lot of mods for Minecraft that would never get in vanilla, but that's part of the appeal. It is something different. So it's the same thing here. Not everything that's good, a good plugin is necessarily good for vanilla.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing.
Dehan asks, is MZ still a part of the game's development or has he stopped? He has not been a part of the development for quite some time, but that is all on his own. That's his own decision to not really be super engaged because he kind of
We
got
don't harp on him
busy.
for it.
Yeah, got busy, got writer's block, kind of started losing motivation, handed things over to us. He's talked about returning, and if he did, we would definitely welcome him with open arms. But at this moment, he is not a part of the game's
Yeah,
development.
and we don't want to kind of jump on him and tell him to come back
Yeah.
or anything. So. All right, we're coming up on the hour here, so we have 10 more minutes or so. If you guys have any other questions,
Not answering that question. Whoever just posted that at 46, 4 minutes ago. That is not the type of question we answer on these.
yeah, that's not a stream question.
That is not an appropriate question. Whoever you are, we are currently wagging our finger at you. Who changed the status? I don't know. I didn't.
Who's I? Raise your hand.
Can the person named I please identify yourself?
Okay, there's two eyes. All right, let's see how it is.
All right, but let me. Dare I check Twitch chat?
Oh yeah,
I'm innocent.
I'm
This is
innocent.
slander. The
Sounds like
question
something
was
a
Navy
guilty person
license
would
when?
say.
Yeah, we can't answer that question. Araki says he's leaving. So goodbye.
Goodbye, Iraqi. Have fun at the next birthday.
Yeah, the next birthday party.
I Hector94 changed the stream description. Okay, Hector94. You're now Hawktor94. Give me can you give me the power to change nicknames so I can do that to
No.
him? Dang, dictator. Yeah, MZ. Yeah,
All right. Well, give us our outro then.
alrighty.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to our 5th Campfire Chat. A reminder that we do these monthly, the first Saturday of every month. The next stream will be on the 6th of January in 2024, after the new year. So
Woohoo!
looking forward to seeing you then. Hoping that we have a lot to talk about next time, because with it being the month of December, and PTO policies in the United States being what they are, I have to spend PTO in order to not lose it, which means I have a lot of extra free time.
I can't wait for all of the years since blank jokes. You're getting banned for saying that, by the way.
So my goal, currently we have 132 open pull quests. My goal is to get below 120 at least. If we can really stretch it, I would almost say maybe we could hit 100.
Below 100. Below 100. Let's go.
Now, I will admit that is kind of depending. That it kind of depends on how many pull quests get opened in December.
Don't open pull quests.
Yeah, don't open
Stop
too many.
contributing.
Because I will note that not that this is necessarily a bad thing, but I did realize that this past month, November, has been our lowest month for pull quests since like February of last year. Which it was still like 40 something pull quests. Normally we've been averaging like 80 pull quests per month for a good while now. But
Yeah.
it was nice to get a bit of a reprieve from all that. That just means the game is so good that no one has anything they can fix, you know? Yeah, Benny says last year in December we had like 100 pull quests merged. Yeah, let me look. Because I have a list of not necessarily what was merged, but what was open in different months. So, okay, I think my number might be a little out of date. We had like 45 pull requests opened in this November. The last time we had a number that low opened was November of 2021. So after November of 2021, it was 42 in December, 44 in January, 35 in February. So it's not quite the lowest in a good amount of time, but I mean, 2 years lowest. It's nothing crazy. Then starting in October of 2022, so in September of 2022, we had 64 pull requests opened. The very next month in October, 161. So almost 100 more pull requests were opened in October than in September of last year. It was insane. And then it just stayed high. In November, 178. In December, 168. In January, 180. In February, 153. And then it went down. 87 in March, 75 in April, 71 in May, 100 on the dot in June. Then 86 in July, 92 in August and September, 96 in October, and then about 45 in November.
Yeah.
So we kind of just randomly cut it in half, but we also randomly doubled at one point. So I don't think it's too crazy to be like, oh, maybe we're finally returning to our historical average.
Cut it half again. 2 progress a month.
Yeah. But yeah. The number of stuff that gets merged in a month is kind of dependent on how much stuff gets opened in a month. But where we end off at in the terms of the total number of open pull requests that are still remaining, that is kind of helped if we don't open like 167 pull requests in 1 month or whatever it is. So, yeah. Any other final comments we want to add, or is that it?
If you're looking for the trailer stuff, tomorrow we're probably going to chat about it real quick, and then Hector will release an announcement for that when you can expect to look forward to for that. So,
a reminder that Sog will be streaming after this ends, so he will be posting his announcement in the stream notifications room in Discord. So you can hop over to his stream if you would like after this.
Just be modeling some things, showing off some designs so far. Not saying everything I'm doing is going to be in the game or anything, but just kind of playing around with it. Maybe if you have any Blender questions, like basic ones, I can help you out. Making ships and whatnot.
Papoof says about thrust reverse AI. What if warships could use it to stay in range of their weapons, but out of enemy weapons? Only players can
There,
do that right now. I mean,
one of the PRs actually kind of has that sort of behavior. When I was testing them out, one of them kind of keeps the ship in a certain spot. Although I'm not sure if that's because of the PR, if it's because of our new artillery AI or distance AI or whatever. But it can happen. It's not just something we can like trigger though with like
yeah.
a phrase or something. But
A short response to that: one, yes, reverse thrust AI is going to be improved, but two,
yeah,
I don't think every like not mechanic, but like technique that the player is capable of, we should necessarily make the AI capable of. There should be some techniques that are like player only that you can figure out as like emergent behavior of mechanics that the game gives you, without having the AI also be able to do that. So just a short answer to that, not to drag this on too much longer. But yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap up then.
yep.
Once again, thank you for everyone for showing up, and we will see you next time. Adios.
See you.